So there's a topic I've discussed in the past about why a man chooses one woman over another. All right. And I did this video and it got a lot of views. And I said in the video, there was a lot more to discuss and I was going to do a part 2. And so here we are. All right. It's time to do that part 2. It's time to break this thing down. Now, like I mentioned in the first video, and I will link it at the very end of this video if you want to check that out. One thing I want women to not do is to internalize when a man, quote unquote, chooses another woman over her. Because there's so many reasons that can be at play, and it's not necessarily a reflection of you not being a good woman or anything like that. Now, are there some things, and are there some things that may have been thrown things off between a woman and a man? Of course. That can happen, right? And so more so, if anything, it's about, in many cases, you two just aren't in alignment with each other. And maybe that man's in better alignment with someone else, or for some of the reasons I'm going to lay out right now, he chooses the other option, but it's not really a reflection of you and what's going on with you. So don't let it in any way cause you to question your value or question how good of a woman you are or anything like that. Okay, but let's get into some of these additional reasons why a man chooses one woman over another. And a big one we have to talk about is because he can't be with the one he truly loves. So in this situation, with this one, we could argue that he's not necessarily he's making a choice, but because he's been left with no other choice as far as he is concerned. Okay, so what I mean by that is you could have a situation where, and this happens a lot, and trust me, as a coach, I've seen this in so many different ways. Let's say a woman and man, let's say they're friends. Okay, now, let me use the friends. I'll give you another example. Man, he's pursuing a woman. He's like, I love you. I'm so into you. But woman, for whatever reasons, has her hesitations. In this scenario that I'm thinking about right now, family was in her head telling her, this man is not at your level. You know, you deserve someone better than that. Not that he was a bad guy, okay? His line of work and he wasn't of a certain status that they felt that she should be with, okay? So they got her head, caused her to be very hesitant. He pursued over a year. And he truly, by his own words and his efforts, was in love with this woman. But everyone has their breaking point, all right? And you can only resist someone for so long. So she resisted him. Eventually, he starts to just stop trying so hard. And 6 months later, right, after they kind of lose contact for a little bit, she finally realizes, like, you know what, I made a mistake, I need to go back. And then finds out he's with some other woman and they're engaged to get married. Okay, now for her, she's all hurt. She's like, well, that means he must have been playing me. How could you claim you love me and then all of a sudden now you're moving on and with some other woman and engaged to her? And I'm like, none of that means he did not love you. None of that means he was not truly in love with you. But for many men, if they cannot be with the one they truly love, and they've now reached a point in their life where they want to settle down, many will then choose whatever is the next best option, the best logical option. And many times, that next best or logical option is the woman who is showing him how much she wants to be with him. Because understand this, when he has poured his heart out to this one woman, trying so hard to be with her, but essentially feeling her rejection or resistance all this time, that puts him in a mindset of, like, I don't want to have to be in a situation where I'm trying so hard to win someone's love only to be left out in the cold. So now you have this other woman come along who's the one who's making all the effort and showing all this energy and doing all this, and that feels safe. A lot of women do this too, but we're not going to focus on the women. We're going to focus on the men. A lot of men will do that because now it's like, oh, okay, well, you know what? I have the security of feeling like she really wants to be with me, and I'm not the one over here begging and pleading and getting treated the way I got treated in the last situation. But anyways, the woman who finally came back was, she wanted to refuse to believe that he could possibly truly love her. And I'm like, no, that's just wrong. And again, I see it happen so often. There's tons of men right now married to a woman but have stronger feelings for someone else. And I would argue that's the majority of marriages. All right. I know that sounds horrible, but I'm just being real with y'all. I think the majority, not all, right? But I think the majority are very close to it, are people who are married to one person but have stronger feelings for someone else. Okay. And for whatever reason, that situation was not able to get worked out. Sometimes by their own, because of their own issues or fears or what the other person was doing, whatever. But the bottom line is, yes, this happens. And for that man, it may also be a matter of not using this person, but kind of like how a rebound relationship works. Some individuals move on because they're trying to invest into someone new to help them forget about the other person, to help them detached from the other person. So it's a coping mechanism for them, right? And so that's why I'll have people ask me, well, how could this man move on so fast? And I'm like, hold on. He may be moving on the surface, right? But he's doing that to help deal with the fact that underneath, he still struggles. Underneath, he still misses the other woman. Underneath, he still has a greater love for the other woman, but he's trying not to have to deal with that any longer. And it's easier to do that if you have someone else you have to pour your energy and time into. So it is more common than people think. And it's unfortunate. It's sad, but it's a reality. And it is one of the reasons why a man will choose one woman. Or again, in his mind, what was he supposed to do? He can't wait for the woman he loves forever. And you never know if it's ever going to work out or whatever the case may be. And it could be other issues involved there. But at some point, it's like if he wants a family, if he wants to settle down, he's got to make a move. All right. So now another reason why a man chooses one woman over another is because there's a greater financial benefit there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this is extremely common. I mean, it happens. It does happen. I wouldn't say it's the majority of situations, but the reality is that there are men out there who ain't doing that great for themselves or can't really hold themselves up. And for them, the choice of who to be with is going to be very dependent on the resources that women can provide. Like, it reminds me of a guy I knew who, he was telling me a story how he was with this one woman who was like this beautiful model, right? And he was explaining to me, he was like, man, you wouldn't believe, she was also like an IG model or someone who's, on the internet like that. And he said, she had all these followers, but little would people know she was super broke. He was like, she can't even order a pizza for herself, right? It was really bad. And I was like, oh, wow. I was like, so, like, what happened with the relationship? And he's like, oh, I broke up with her. I said, why'd you break up with her? He said, well, we can't both be broke. I'm trying not to laugh. But it made me laugh when he said it at the time, like, dang, well, you got a point. That makes sense, okay? But yes. And so for him, where he was at that stage of his life, he's evolved since then. But where he was, and it's not me, trust me, it's not me, never been me. When at that stage of his life, because of where he was and not doing well, that played a huge role in who he would allow himself to be with. And yes, it superseded or it trumped desires like physical attraction, because he was clearly very physically attracted to the woman. You know, he liked her personality wise, but to him it was like, yo, we both struggling. And at that time in his life, I don't think he had a path or vision on how he was going to get himself out of it. And he needed someone that can take that burden off of him, or at least buy him some time. And I've had other men who said to me like, yeah, you know, you got to find a woman who you can build wealth with and who has this and that. And I'm like, you're focused on all her resources, money, because you ain't where you need to be. And I'm not saying that's not important to some people regardless, even for a man who may be successful, not as often as some may think, but depending on how successful, that's a whole different discussion. But a lot of these men who are not stable, who have not gotten to a certain place, or who simply still see a huge need for basically a supplemental income, somebody else who's bringing in some money, is going to weigh that in who they choose to be with. But then it's not just who has the money, it's who's going to give it to him. All right, so you could have two women, and let's say they're both doing well, but one is like, you're a man, you need to be able to take care of yourself and do things for yourself, or I still want to be treated a certain kind of way. So that's no benefit to him, right? But the next woman can have a little bit less than her. He can have a lot less. But that woman is willing to let him live in her apartment while she takes care of the rent, light bill, whatever. Hell, has this joker driving her car, not even giving her gas money. She's still the one putting. I mean, it gets bad. And if you are in this situation, I don't want you to feel like I'm picking on you right now. I pray that you get yourself out of that, right? And into a better place. But the reality is that, you know, it's happening. And so there's these guys who are going to choose based off of that. And so it's just another perfect example of why you can't really get caught up in thinking, is something wrong with me, or why is this woman better than me? No, she might just be more convenient than you. And she may have more disposable income than you that she is willing to give this man and allow him to take advantage in that way. So it definitely plays a part with some of these men out here. All right, so now this next one, some of y'all might feel some kind of way about it. I'm going to be very delicate with how I present it, but, you know, I'm going to keep it real with y'all always. Another reason why a man chooses one woman over another is because of sexual compatibility. Okay? Now, for many of y'all, that's not a shock or a surprise if we're keeping it real. But I do think a lot of women aren't considering the impact that could be having, right? And so let me just mention it now before I forget. This is one of the reasons why we all know, for those who are believers, you know, the ideal, the goal is wait till marriage. But I always say, though that may be the ideal, I understand that most people don't make it that far. Okay, most people engage way before then. I'm no better than y'all, so, you know, ain't no judgment here. But, you know, and because that is the case for many, believer or not, I still want to discuss things within that dynamic, because we still have to be mindful of how we're navigating even in that dynamic if we're going to walk down that path, so to speak. So one of the things I say to women is that if you're going to sleep with a man, you want to make sure you are truly comfortable with taking that next step. Because what happens with a lot of women, whether they realize it or not, is they engage sexually with a man before they're truly comfortable. And I'm going to put it like this. Because you're not truly comfortable yet, right? You're not coming with your A game. All right? So you may be fully capable of being just a star in the bedroom, okay? Like you are amazing. You have that ability. But for many of you, you have to feel comfortable and safe enough to let that side out, right? But even though you need to feel that way to let that side out, many of you may still engage before you've reached that point. So now, rather than coming with your A game, you're coming with your C plus game. Come in with your B minus game. I say it respectfully and with love, but I'm just being real with y'all. And and though you may think, nah, it's still good even when it's a B minus. Yeah, it might be good, but it doesn't. But now he's evaluating things based off of that. So let's add more direct context to this, right? Let's say when you're really comfortable and safe, you're much more open-minded in the bedroom. Your energy is higher. Your desire, you're more into it. You're making noises, all this stuff, right? But when you're not that comfortable, you're a little bit more quiet, a little bit more passive. You know, you might engage. You might do some things. You might have some moments, flashes of it, but it's not the same. Now, for some guys, that reserved or held back side of you that you're giving may still be amazing to him, may still be good enough, and it not negatively impacting you in any kind of way. However, the downside of that is when you bring out your real self, he may not be able to handle that. There are some women who held back initially. That dude, maybe he's a conservative guy. He was cool with that level, and he can hang with that level. But your true level, he's like, oh, this is too much. I can't do this. And now you're unsatisfied, and there's a disconnect. On the flip side, you have that guy who's looking for a certain kind of energy in the bedroom. You engage thinking, for whatever reason, and now he's thinking, you know what? This isn't going to work. I like her, but in the bedroom it's just not there. And it's not because it doesn't exist within you, but he doesn't know that. Like, I've had men say to me before, like, I knew one guy who, after like the first time I'm messing with a woman, she didn't engage in a certain sexual act. And he was like, oh, I'm not dealing with no woman if she ain't doing that. And I was like, bruh, slow down. She just may need a little time warming up to be comfortable. Like, you so quick to, everybody's not this microwave to pop them in, they're ready to go and boom, boom, boom when it comes to intimacy. Like, maybe you just need to have a conversation, whatever. Long story short, he listened to me. He was patient. He was like, man, you were so right, because now it's super amazing. And they just had to work through some things. But everybody doesn't understand that. And so you get evaluated based off of what you are currently presenting. And now, yes, this can lead to a man choosing one woman over the other, because one of the biggest concerns of men when it comes to long-term relationships and marriage is this woman capable of satisfying me sexually? Is she willing and capable? All right? Because if she's not, he's going to have way greater fear and hesitancy to tie himself to this woman for the rest of his life. All right? But if he gets the feeling that she is, even if sometimes it's not what he thinks, that's a whole different discussion, he'll be more willing to move forward. So it plays a role, it plays a part. Now, understand this. Do I think we have to have sex to understand if we are on the same page and are compatible? No. Many of you may disagree. I understand, but respectfully, no, I don't believe that. I believe we can sit down and if we're willing to have an open, honest discussion, through talking, we can see if we're actually on the same page. If we have attraction with each other, right, and we share the same mindset, or we embrace each other's mindset when it comes to how we approach things sexually and what our desires and needs are, then we can be good. And of course, discuss all the things that play into it, because I think a lot of people are suffering, let's just say marriage is suffering with a sexual disconnect, because they don't understand all the things that play into it for both sides, okay? But the bottom line is, I do believe we can discover compatibility without going through the act. So I'm not saying you have to go through the act, but I am saying if you are going to, you have to be mindful that that is going on your resume. That's bottom line. It's for both sides. It's going on the resume, and we have to be mindful of that, because it can swing that person in one direction or another Not the swing some of y'all might be thinking about with your nasty minds, but swing people into whether they're going to move forward or not. All right. So before I get to the next point, just want to quickly mention there's a great opportunity to join my membership program that will help you with healing, meeting relationship-minded men, tapping into your feminine energy, so many more things. Thousands of women are already experiencing it and experiencing great benefit from it. So take advantage of this moment. Go to receivingmyblessings.com or click the link in the description or the comment section. You can check it out after you finish watching the rest of this video. And just join the day. I'm telling you, you're going to love it. It's an amazing experience. We do live calls where I answer your personal questions. And it's going to be very, very helpful to you on your journey. Now, to keep this video going, another reason why a man chooses one woman over another is because she makes him feel more desired. Okay? So I've mentioned in the past, I've given this example of, you ever see a situation where a man is dealing with two women, and let's say one is more of the good girl, maybe more conservative, and the other one is a little bit of crazy, okay? And in many cases, he ends up with the crazy one, all right? Now, immediately someone looks at that as he's just dysfunctional and all these different things. But I need you to take a step back and let me just point out, this even happens a lot on the flip side, okay? Where the woman ends up with that kind of guy too. And when you think about it from this perspective, I think this will start to make more sense to you. The reason why the man in many cases, not all, but in many cases, ends up with what may be considered the crazier one of the two is because she is more likely willing to show high level of desire. All right. She's more willing to go hard and do what she got to do to be like, nah, this is my man. You ain't going nowhere. Whereas the good, more conservative one may be taking more of an approach of, no, he needs to come after me. He needs to choose me. Boom, 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 boom. But in doing that, is not showing or presenting how much desire she has for him. All right. And humans in general tend to be drawn to where they feel more desired and appreciated and wanted. Plain and simple, to the point that they will overlook some of the crazy that comes with it because at least they feel like, but this person actually really wants me, whereas this other person, I have to question and wonder because of how maybe nonchalant they are. Now, some of y'all might be good women with a little bit of crazy in you, okay? and that can be good for some people, all right? Some people like that, all right? So maybe you know how to be a good woman, but you know how to show that passion and desire. And that's what I mean by having that crazy in you. I think every woman, it would be awesome to be able to find it within yourself to show that man that you want to be with, the man that you're interacting with, that you truly desire him. Now, again, that doesn't mean chasing after a man. That doesn't mean technically pursuing a man, right? It just means, not be afraid to let it be known that, yes, I want you, I desire you, all these things. Now, if you don't like that example, I'll give you a different one. I always forget the title of this book. I'm ashamed at this point, but I gotta roll with it. There's this book, and the whole premise of the book is they survey these married couples after they get their marriage license, and they're asking questions like, why did you marry this person? And they ask the men, why did you marry this woman? And one of the top answers they received was, because she liked me. Say that one more time. They said the reason why they chose this woman is because she liked me. What a lot of women underestimate is the power of making a man feel wanted and desired. All right. And one of the reasons why you're underestimating it, or maybe you're not understanding the level of power it possesses, is because you don't understand how how uncommon it is for a man to receive that kind of energy from a woman, that kind of spirit from a woman where she's coming at him like that, all right? Again, men are typically in the position where they have to pursue, chase, whatever the case may be. So when they have a woman who's showing up in that way for them, that feels damn good. Plain and simple, all right? Now, it doesn't mean you can just go to any man you want, show him you want him, and he's going to choose you. All right, but let's not go that far. All right, let's be realistic here. But if he already has attraction and a level of desire for you, and you're willing to express your desire and show it for him, yes, that reels him in even more. So going back to the whole why he chooses one woman over the other, sometimes that is the case. That other woman is willing to put it out there, willing to take certain actions, whereas the other one is too laid back and chill and not doing anything. Now, other factors will come into play as far as, how much that affects his willingness to go with one or the other, but that in itself is a huge deal. All right, so here's another big one we got to discuss. And another reason why a man may choose one woman over another is because one woman makes him feel needed while the other doesn't. Okay? Now, I know some of y'all might roll your eyes and suck your teeth like, what is wrong with these men? Why do they need to feel needed? What is all this stuff? Why you got to stroke their ego? All these different things. Listen, I think in reality, if you sit down and think about it, everyone likes to feel like they have a place of value in a relationship, all right? That they feel, in a sense, if not needed, again, they're able to provide something when they actually care about where they are. It reminds me of like in basketball or in sports. You'll have guys who are on the bench, they're not playing. And you'll have spectators who are looking like, why is he unhappy? He's making millions of dollars, he gets to sit on the bench. But it's like when you love the game and you care about it, you want to contribute. You want to be someone that's bringing more value than just sitting on the bench. Some guys don't care. Some guys are like, I'm good, I'm getting my check, I'm fine. But for many, it's like, no, they want to go somewhere where they can play and be of value and actually do what they love. And that is the same mentality in relationships. A lot of men, they don't want to be somewhere where they just sit back and they have no value here, right? They want to feel like, not that you can't live without them. I think that's unhealthy if that's what a man's looking for. And I think if he's looking for a woman that can't live without him, again, there's some other issues there. But being able to provide some kind of true value and being able to be of service to the one that you care about and that you love, because it's not just about how that makes you feel, it's also about the fact that it allows you to pour love into her, like doing for her, showing your value, being of any kind of need or help to that person. It gives you an opportunity to express and show love and let that love flow back and forth. And when that's being blocked, the love is being blocked. You see? And so for a lot of, and understand, I think on a deeper level, a lot of men are wired to, yes, provide, protect. And provide doesn't automatically just mean money, but it does mean, like, again, being of service to your woman. And if you can't do that, that can make a man feel very uncomfortable. But I think we have to go beyond that, because here's the reality. If a man is with a woman who he cannot be of service to in any way, right? He does not feel needed or valued in any kind of way. It's not just staying at he's not allowed to do stuff for her. It's carrying over into other ways, because in the vast majority of situations, if not all, but at least the majority, the woman who does not allow the man to provide his value probably has a wall up herself. Some of y'all may not like hearing that, but it's reality. She probably has a wall up and here's an example of that wall. She was told from when she was young, maybe by even her father, never rely on a man. Never put yourself in a position to rely on her man. So she has built her life in a way that I can do everything for myself so that I never have to trust or rely on a man to do for me. That is a wall. It's not a healthy wall. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with building a life where you can do for yourself. But when you cannot even get out of your own way to let someone who wants to do for you, that is unhealthy. That is a problem. And again, if we go back into whether it be the basketball analogy or even at a job that people actually care about, to not let that person provide value and express their love and passion for their work, it stifles them in a way that it just creates other issues. Okay, so it's not simply I can't do this for you. It's again like there's just so much more at play there, and it goes deeper. And so if that woman has fears of I can't rely on a man, trust and believe it's going to show up in other ways as well. All right, and it's going to create or contribute to other disconnects in the relationship. It may even contribute into, for example, some women have their walls so high up and they struggle with being vulnerable and just letting a man do for them that it extends to even them being very openly affectionate with the man. All right. They don't know how to be very affectionate or receive his affection, receive his compliments, receive his things. And so again, it starts to create this other disconnect and issue within the relationship. All right. And we have to be able to recognize that for what it is. So when we say, yeah, the man wants to feel needed, just don't look at it as just that. Go beyond that, but understand it is normal for any person who cares about something, loves something, to want to provide value or service to it. Plain and simple. And there's nothing wrong with that. So going back to the point of choosing one woman over another, let's look at it from a different angle. One is letting her love him. One is letting him love her and the other isn't. So where's he going to go for a relationship? Where the love can be had. Plain and simple. All right. Some of y'all may disagree, but I'm just telling you what it is. But bottom line, at the end of the day, again, though some of these examples do point to issues within a woman that may need to be addressed, still understand that, and I always want to encourage self-evaluation, being able to humble ourselves to understand what we need to improve upon, because if we don't correct some of these issues, we're going to consistently stay in this cycle and not get the healthy relationship that we desire. But understand that many of these situations are just about you and that man not being in alignment. And when that's the case, learn what you can from the situation. Maybe it's about learning how to who to invest your time into better, how to better evaluate quicker if this man is truly for you or not. Going to God sooner in the process to see what God has to say about this individual, but doing what we can to set ourselves up for success and to receive the person who is truly best for you. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here, which is the part 1 of why a man chooses one woman over another. Back to breaking this whole thing down of, when a man does choose another woman over you, I want to shed light on it. Why it happens, what's actually going on.